everyone. It's Sarah and Martina here with Natural Shore Technologies, and we are featuring another book this month for book club. This one is the Midwestern Native Garden, and it talks about native alternatives to non-native flowers and plants. It's by Charlotte Adelman and Bernard Schwartz. So this one is kind of a guide. It's not much reading as much as just comparing non-native plants and native plant alternatives. And she really kind of emphasizes, we're not born with knowledge of native plants and invasive species, but through learning through books and groups and things like that, we can do our part to be responsible in what we're planting and not continuing to plant invasive species. For sure. Yeah, what I really enjoyed about the book is that she does the plants in accordance to when they flower. So we have spring first, and then it goes into summer, and then fall, of course. And at each beginning, she describes like ecological notes for each season, which I thought was super interesting. The book has a ton of photos and even drawings, botanical drawings, which are really interesting to look at. And yeah, she provides more than one native alternative for each non-native ornamental, which I thought was really good to give you some variety. I've personally never read or found a book like this, and Sarah mentioned to me that she found it actually at Costco, which I think is great because just getting it out there, and I mean, we wouldn't think that you'd find a guide like this just at like a grocery store or a common store, but it's really great to hear that it's getting out there. Yeah, she really goes into how like we need to start planting these native plants to not only prevent their extinction, but also for the pollinators and all the native insects, and which of course correspond to the whole food web. Birds, mammals, it all goes in a cycle. Yeah, I really like that she emphasized the insect relationships with the plants, because I think it's even more convincing to switch over to native plants from the traditional ornamentals. But yeah, I really like the pictures in here. I like the botanical drawing that she does with it. I think there's usually like the botanical drawing of the non-native. So for example, this one's wood anemone, and then some of the native alternatives are Canadian anemone, Carolina anemone, thimbleweed, and things like that. One note, this is just for the Midwest in general, so not all of these native alternatives are actually native to Minnesota, but they're still better than planting daylilies. Yeah, so for each native plant, she actually provides a nature note, and that's where you'll find a lot of these insect relationships and just like interesting information. For example, where did I have that? Ranunculus, the buttercup genus, rana means frog, and that kind of translates to little frog, meaning that some of these plants are found in wetland areas, so I thought that was super interesting to learn from the book. And yeah, she has pictures of the pollinators, which is really good. She lists the ornamental attributes of the natives, which I think is good to note. Yeah, I think it's a really good book for those gardeners who are used to the ornamental plants, as I mean, when I started my career, I was introduced to ornamentals first, before anything, and I think it's good to get that sense of place where we live, to plant those native plants that belong in this land. Yeah. And for sure. I think one critique that I had of the book is I wish there were like better page breaks. They each thing kind of overflows onto the next page, so it can be kind of confusing where one thing starts and another thing. But I mean, you kind of figure it out. She puts the natives in green and the non-natives in red fonts, so I think that was helpful for navigating that. Yeah, and with the invasiveness of these plant species, she mentions the fact that decades pass before these plants can actually become invasive. So we really want to stop stop introducing plants that could potentially become invasive and outcompete our natives on their natural landscapes. And I think it's just great to incorporate natives into your own gardens to connect the habitat and just create that sense of place. Yeah, definitely. So check this book out. It's great for people that are just getting into native plant gardening. If you already know a lot about native plants, I maybe wouldn't suggest this book because you probably know enough already. But yeah, also gardeners who are really experienced gardeners who are into those ornamentals and want to experiment with natives, I mean, it's a great book for that. Yeah, lots of options. So we'll see you next time for book club. See ya!